hmm It's all 5:02. I got here about 4 or 5 minutes ago. Yeah. And I didn't send any emails this afternoon. I was not feeling well, so I thought I should sleep. I just wanted to mention Exhibit A. Yes. hmm the court does not have jurisdiction over the parties and minors in the subject matter. Respondent did not have reasonable notice and opportunity to be heard. The order was not issued in accordance with the full faith and credit provisions of the VAWA. Yes. And then in 2011, I never got notice or opportunity to be heard. Yeah. And then you reissued the protection order when I was on trial, but it should not have been reissued until there was a verdict from the jury. Yes. hmm And then you modified the protection order without me receiving the actual documentation of the declaration of Pastor Greg Miller. Yeah. I was not given any notice or opportunity to be heard. You issued a dissolution of marriage that I've never received, and I did not get notice of actual court hearings before you issued the dissolution of marriage. You arrested me for crimes that I did not commit, and you would not admit the evidence that I was on a bus at 7:47 a.m. And then there's the state's motion to response to motion to dismiss. Yes. It seems the city of Auburn versus Solis Marcal. My public defender used this as a reason to dismiss the case in Jefferson County, whereas the state said the reason that it was valid was because I had knowledge of it. Yes, even though I wasn't given any notice or opportunity to be heard. Now, Mr. Hawes, prosecuting attorney, yes, and Brett Roberts. The Domestic Violence Protection Act requires that the due process rights of the respondent have to be protected. The petitioner has to sign the actual protection order. You can see here in Exhibit A. She did not actually sign it. There is no state seal and there is no signature of the ex officio superior court clerk. Yes, you can see the difference between this and that. Yes. The actual exhibit that was admitted is not an actual true exhibit of the protection order that was served on me. Ooch. Now this signature, yes, is not the same as this signature. Oh. Now some people would say that's a forgery because one or the other are not the same. Pooch. Now I know when there's no signature here, yes, and there's no state seal on this, yes, there's some fraud involved. Ooch. And then there's this right here where there was no attempt of service from 6/1 to 6/12. Yes, the law requires attempt of service. Then from 6/12 to 7/31, you can't have a court hearing 50 days later. Happens to violate the RCWs. Yes. And then the return of service, and then the attempt of service of somebody other than myself after you serve me in the Sequim Public Library. That would be fraud. Pooch. And then there's a return of service of somebody that did get served. Yes. That was not the respondent. Yes. Now you have right here an actual chronological order of exactly what you did. And it's obvious to me that there's some fraud involved. Ooch. But instead of getting a phone call this afternoon from my sons in Maryland, you decided you were going to sit on your laurels. Now, this whole thing about spending 27 days in jail for a mental health evaluation, you're starting to upset me. Did you think I was a weak American citizen that doesn't understand? Now, I was looking at the Black's Law Dictionary of fraud. A knowing misrepresentation or knowing concealment of a material fact made to induce another to act to his or her detriment. Ooch. Fraud is usually a tort, but in some cases, especially when conduct is willful, it may be a crime, also termed intentional fraud. Ooch. Now let's see. You issue court orders where it's not the signature of the ex officio superior court clerk. That would be criminal fraud. Ooch. You intentionally issue orders. Criminal fraud. Do you understand that you're obstructing my right to make a living because of the criminal fraud of Clallam County? It's criminal fraud. Now, reckless misrepresentation made without justified belief in its truth to induce another person to act. Ooh. A tort arising from knowing or reckless misrepresentation or concealment of material fact made to induce another to act to his or her detriment. You know, I've really felt that you want me to act to my detriment when you wanted me to motion the court, when you said, well, why don't I just get an attorney? Now, you want me to act to my detriment when I have documented the fraud of issuing court orders where they were not issued within the 90 days allowed by law, where there was no attempt to service after serving a temporary protection order. Yes, after issuing it. And then you have a court hearing 50 days later when the law only allows for 14 days. And for some stupid fucking reason, you want me to violate the law. Now, why the fuck would it be that the police and sheriff's department think that I, as a citizen, would want to violate the laws of the United States? Why would you fucking think that?